guys, my name's Emily. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be giving you my October wrap-up. So October didn't go as I planned it. I had some things go on health-wise. My kids got sick. It was just a whole thing. So it is what it is. I did read 9 books this month, so not a complete fail. I read 2,665 pages. There were 3 standalones, 6 books that were a part of series. I read from 1 male author, and I read from 7 female authors. I had 0, 1, and 2 stars. I had 2 3 stars. I had 1 4 star and 6 5 stars. I call that a really good reading month for me, so I'm taking it. Okay, so I read 4 adult books, I read 3 YA books, I didn't read any middle grade books, and I read 2 graphic novels. The genres I read 3 paranormal, I read 1 mystery thriller, I read a contemporary graphic novel, I read 2 fantasy romances, 1 paranormal romance, and 1 horror. So not as much horror as I wanted to, or mystery thrillers, but you know, it is what it is, and whatever. So the first book I read this month was These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling, I believe. I actually really enjoyed this. I actually heard mixed reviews about this book, but I ended up really enjoying it, and I've had it for a while on my Kindle, so I was happy to get to it. So we follow Hannah. She's an elemental witch. She lives in Salem, Massachusetts, and she's part of a coven, and she recently broke up with her girlfriend, and things start happening, and it leads Hannah to believe that there's a blood witch in town, and you find out kind of something happened to her with a blood witch previous to this story. There is a novella I found out about this little encounter with the blood witch that you can read before this, but I really enjoyed this. It also brings in like a new girl, and you're wondering if she's the blood witch or who's the blood witch and what's happening, and this book was so good. It was very like atmospheric and spooky time feeling, and it has mystery and magic, and I really enjoyed it. It did have some sad parts, but you know, bound to happen. But I really enjoyed this book, so I gave this one 4 stars. So the second book I read this month was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I gave this one 5 stars, and it was on my 5-star prediction, so happy to have given that 5 stars. I did pick up the second and third book of this, so I really need to get to that, but I listened to this on the audiobook, and it was amazing. So this is about Pip, and for her senior project, she decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project. And I think at first it's just to kind of prove that there were more things that went unanswered and things that weren't covered and more mystery to this, and it ends up sending her down this black spiral of events, and involves original suspect's younger brother, and they're kind of put together trying to solve what really happened all these years ago, and I really enjoyed it. So good, fast. I read it in 1 day, like it's so quick. So I definitely enjoyed all the twists and turns this had. Definitely a good spooky read to pick up this month. Next I read The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gold. This follows 2 different perspectives, Logan and Ashley. So Logan is getting ready to move to Snakebite, Oregon with one of her dads so that they can kind of meet up with the other dad, and they kind of have like this paranormal reality show, kind of, not reality show, yeah, kind of, I don't know, and she's kind of just ready to be on her own and find her own place and not move around all the time. And you know, so going to this new town that has absolutely like nothing, is in the middle of nowhere, she just doesn't feel happy, and she hasn't for a while, and you kind of get to see like why that is. So when she gets to town, she finds out that someone is missing, and that her dad that's there is the suspect, that, and everyone thinks that he had something to do with it. And when they get to this town, her and her other dad, they're kind of treated poorly. Like, they're looked at as outcasts. And it's just so horrible how they're, like, treated at first in this town. And then we get to the other perspective, which is Ashley's. And Ashley has lived in this town of Snakebite her entire life with her mother. And, you know, her boyfriend is the one that has gone missing. And she just can't stop searching. And she feels partly responsible because they had a fight the night that he kind of went missing. And she just doesn't understand, like, nothing like this ever happens in this town, and she just wants to get to the bottom of it and figure out what's going on. And then Logan and her family come to town, and she's kind of like, great, these new people are coming to town, like, are they responsible? You know, it's just all these questions. And I do have to say, this wasn't my favorite book. I did give it 3 stars, but something about the atmosphere just gave it that really small town feel, and like atmospheric in a way of like the ghost and just different things. There's like this big mystery that surrounds like Logan's family, and it kind of intertwines with what's happening currently. So hopefully that made sense, but I did enjoy it, just not as much as I'd hoped to. So that was the 3rd book I read this month. So the next 2 books I read were Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Spell on Wheels by Kate Leth, Megan Levins, and Marissa Louise. I've read these before. These are rereads for me. 5 stars, 5 stars. We follow Josiah and Deja, and they work at this pumpkin patch, and it's their last night before they go off to college, and they are set to try and find this girl that he's been crushing on, and it's just so cute, and it's so much fall vibes. Like, look at these end papers, like, they're gorgeous, and like, it's just fall vibes everywhere. Like, the cover just says it. I really enjoyed reading this again, and it'll be one I continually pick up. As for Spell on Wheels, we follow these 3 witches. Follow Andy, Jolene, and Claire. And so these 3 witches have had things stolen from them, and they're going on this road trip essentially to get back their stuff and figure out who has taken their stuff and why, and like what is going on. And I just love this. It was so much fun, so many different elements to this, and I really can't wait to see if there's more. Like, look at the artwork, beautiful. So the next 2 books I read are both like part of the same series. I reread Savage Bonds by Jay Bree, and this follows Oleander, and she has been on the run from her bonds because she did it to save them. There's something going on, and she's keeping it from people, and she's hiding her magic, but eventually, you know, at the beginning of the book, she has been found, and she is taken to this like college essentially where she is monitored, and she just has a time of it. People treat her differently because they all know that she ran away from her bonds, and her bonds are very powerful people. And I just loved this. This book was so different, so unique. It's like paranormal reverse harem, and I absolutely loved it. Then moving on, I read Savage Bonds, which is the 2nd book in this series. I gave both of these 5 stars, really enjoyed them. I'm not going to tell you what the 2nd one is about. I don't want to spoil anything, but I definitely think not enough people check this series out, and I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait for the 3rd book to come out. It comes out at the end of December, so I'm excited for that. So next to last, I have Blood Captive by Kim Lorraine. So this follows Olivia and Cashel, and Olivia is captured by Cashel, and she ends up in this house full of vampires because her blood is like the key thing they need to being able to survive in sunlight. And I gave this book 3 stars. It was okay. It was too insta-love for me. I finished the whole thing, obviously, but I just did not like this book as much as I wanted to. And like, as the book went on, like, the main character, like, she barely fights. Like, you're kidnapped, and you're suddenly like, oh, okay, I'm falling in love with someone. Like, what? No, it just doesn't seem logical to me, and I think it just ruined it for me. I did find myself towards like the middle kind of getting into it, but then before I knew it ended, and I was like, it just doesn't feel like it was enough, and I feel like it was too quick almost, so I gave that 3 stars. I don't know if I'll check out any more in this series, but it was a good paranormal romance, so I'm gonna take it as it is. So the last book I got to this month was the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, who is slowly becoming one of my favorite horror authors. Granted, I haven't read a lot of horror, but I love his writing, and the audiobooks for these books are so good. I read this for my library's book club, and I really loved it. I loved getting a chance to talk with people in person about it, so that was fun. So for the main part of this book, we follow Patricia Campbell, and she kind of gathers with a bunch of women, and they start a book club, and they read, like, I want to say the, like, cozy horror, like, trashy horror, pretty much. And they're all having a good time. Well, then a new neighbor moves to town to help with his aunt or whatever. But there's something not right about this guy, and she just can't figure out what. And she's just got all these theories going on in her head, and it was just so good. It was so good. It was so gory, and I loved it. It was atmospheric, and it was nice to see, like, a horror book take place in, like, a different time period. And I'm sure there's many that do, but I haven't read them. This was my first one doing that, so I really enjoyed that. I really don't want to go too much into this one because I feel like you just need to go into it and enjoy it for what it is. And definitely check out the audiobook for this, but I absolutely gave this 5 stars. I'm really happy to have read this one, and I can't wait to get to more by this author. So those were the 9 books that I read for this month. Unfortunately, I didn't get to any more. Like I said, just a lot of things happened towards the end of the month, and it was just too hard to get to anything. I am in the middle of A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee, and also The Empty Grave by Jonathan Stroud. I was hoping I could finish this series this month, but it's not going to happen. But I will finish those books next month. I did not get a bingo, so for spooky graphic novel, Spell on Wheels, witchy vibes, These Witches Don't Burn, Set in the Fall, Pumpkinheads, supernatural main character, Savage Bonds, mystery thriller, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, vampires, The Southern Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires, spooky word and title, The Dead in the Dark, and then I had Broken Bonds and Blood Captive, and I didn't have them down for anything, so it is what it is. I'm not too bent out of shape about it, but thank you for watching my video. Please like this if you liked it, comment and tell me how your month of reading went, and subscribe if you want to. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.